an incredible income.
$250,000.
I'll give you my most controversial take, and I'm probably going to get canceled for saying this.
You dropped out of college with 1 semester to go.
I was desperate for just like meaning in my life. I could probably make a 6-figure business if I was doing TikTok street interviews. Nonchalant Pod, thank you guys so much for having me on. We did something on my podcast a long time ago. We don't do it anymore. The guest guesses the revenue that the podcast channel has made. So I'm going to guess the revenue.
AdSense revenue?
Yeah, I have checked it. Like, I think it was at like 1,000 when I checked it, but that was a while ago. So I'm going to say lifetime earnings on the channel to 2,000, 2,500.
Should we check? Let's check.
Yeah.
Let's check.
Yeah. I don't even know.
Well, you guys flew first class over here, so you have to be making some pretty good money.
Brother, we're not breaking even on those tickets. We're at $1,400 estimated revenue.
Let's
wait,
go.
that's just for the last 28 days. Let me see the.
I mean, that's going to be a big difference when you lifetime it out.
But we've been doing this for like 20 days.
Yeah, no way.
All right, $1,475.
There we go. There we go.
No.
For the small percentage of the audience that doesn't know who you are the host of one of the top podcasts in the world. Would that be a fair introduction?
I mean, I don't know if we're one of the top podcasts in the world, but we do okay. Yeah.
Well, I read somewhere
though.
that to be in the top 1%, you only need like 5,000 downloads per episode.
There we go. We're in the top 1%.
You're probably like the top
podcast.
0.001.
Take it, bro.
We'll take it. We'll
is
take
that,
it. We'll
is
take
that
it.
fair? Like, how far are you guys away from, like, I don't know, Joe Rogan or something?
Is that far? How far? Wait. So,
Like, how far away are you from?
I mean,
think
dude,
you're pretty
that's
far?
like a different world. Joe Rogan. I mean, he probably on audio gets like, my guess is like 10 million downloads an
I
episode.
read somewhere around 11 million per episode.
11 million?
total.
See that? I mean, that's insane. So I don't think we're anywhere near signing a $100 million Spotify deal.
Okay.
But maybe at some point in the future, if we can get more people like Biaheza on, then I think things are gonna look good. Yeah.
You're getting up there though. You guys have been growing massively. And we're just curious, is there any money in this? Is there any money in podcasting? Like, are we gonna see some?
What's my income potential?
Yeah, are we gonna
Okay.
break even?
Yeah. So there is good money in podcasting. I will say people are surprised when I tell them how much we earn because it's not as much as they would think.
Really?
Yeah, but for me, it's still an incredible income. Like I pinch myself every day to, because I just don't believe that this is my life. But yeah, it's really good because you can put multiple ads in every episode. Like it's kind of understood in podcasting. A lot of podcasts put like 6 sponsorships in every episode. So obviously the rate that you can charge is less than a standard video, but most of the money is in sponsorships. And then also you have the Google ads, Spotify ads and stuff like that. And it does add up.
You're not comfortable revealing any actual numbers?
I mean, I won't reveal what we earn from sponsorships just because it's not smart, because then the sponsors will like shop the rate and everything.
Okay,
so
yeah.
that would be a business unwise decision. But sure, I can show you what we're doing on like the YouTube.
The YouTube revenue?
Yeah, the YouTubes. All right, so take a guess how much we made in the past 28 days just from Google AdSense.
$250,000.
Bro.
I mean, I see the watch, bro.
Oh,
To be
just so
wearing a
people
watch
know,
like
just so
that,
people know, things are different now.
that's
Things
an
are
iced-
very different now in the iced coffee hour.
That's an
Got
iced out
this-
Patek.
Got this iced out Patek. Thank you to Vlad. He gave this to me as a gift. I mean, I'm just speechless at how fancy and nice
I
it
mean,
is.
I'm sure it's nothing.
Just so
compared to the
generous.
Hey,
revenue.
approaching 1 million subs, you gotta rock something like that.
Oh, you know it. Okay, so
like
take
10,
a guess.
10?
10K?
Realistic? Yes, I would say 30,000.
5,000.
Okay, so the last 28 days we did 32,000.
32,000.
Yeah, which is like substantially more than how much we were making for the longest time.
Mhm.
I mean, there were kind of different steps. Like initially we were probably making like $700 a month for a super long time. And then it went up to like a few thousand every month, like $3,000 a month. We were there for a very long time. And then we stuck at about $8,000 to $10,000. We were there for like, I don't know, like 1.5 years. And now the podcast is about 4 years old. And we recently had a massive boost in revenue just because I feel like we've been having more evergreen guests on the podcast. And the views, they kind of just stack. Whereas back in the day, we'd have on people that were more current event based. So the podcast would stop getting views after some time. And yeah, it's just compounded. And now we're kind of hovering right around 30 a month.
That's pretty solid, but that's just like the one source of revenue for the podcast. You
Yeah, I
guys
mean,
have
it's a
few,
substantial portion. Like it's not like, some like nominal, negligible amount that we're making from that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What do you think makes your podcast so good? Like, is it Like, what is it about it? Why do you think it works?
Dude, I ask myself that a lot. And it's so weird because I have people that come up to me if they like recognize me or something, or other people, they come on our show and they tell me that, oh, I've been listening to your show for such a long time. Big YouTubers have came up to me and said things like, out of all of the content that I watch on YouTube, most of my time is spent watching the Iced Coffee Hour. And it's people that like I'm huge fans of. I didn't even know that they knew I existed, which is like the most humbling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you famous now? Do you get recognized all the time?
No. I am not even close to being famous.
Do you ever get recognized?
Yeah, I get recognized and stuff like that. And like now, I go to the gym and people at the gym, like they know me, like a few people, like regulars at the gym. So I see them every time, or, different places. But I would not say I'm even close to being famous. And the thing that I think sets our podcast apart would be probably the relationship that Graham and I have. I think does make a bit of a difference because we're so fundamentally different in just the way that we approach life. And I think it's probably just something to do with like the questions we ask and the flow of the podcast. I also spend an exorbitant amount of time in the post-production. Like I am very careful of what I remove, what I keep in the podcast, how I structure the podcast, editing. I try to be good about audio balancing. That's like kind of where I'm working right now. But I think that also has to do something with the success.
You talked about your relationship with Graham. Can you get into how that even started?
Sure. So I was a huge fan of Graham Stephan, and I'll give you just like the basic TLDR type thing. To explain where I was in my life, I was going to community college. And I was going to say I had a girlfriend at the time, but that's totally unrelated. That didn't have anything to do with this. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like where I was at in my life at the time.
Cool.
And so I was in college. I was working as a busser at a restaurant, and I was consuming financial YouTube. And I tried like every side hustle you could possibly imagine. Most of them were unsuccessful. Dropshipping was one. I think I was watching your videos. And then I just started watching Graham Stephan, and I loved everything he was saying. It was reinforcing all the things my dad taught me growing up. So I know he wasn't just some charlatan. And then I opened up a Roth IRA because of him. I did all these actionable things in my own life. He made a literal impact on my life, on my financial future. And then I reached out and I was like, this guy is living the life I want to live. I always had these questions. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was older. I couldn't really see myself working most of the jobs that like the job fairs would present, and
the Matrix jobs.
So I wanted to be a glitch. Okay. Yeah. Shout out Luke Belmar. And he was like living the life that I wanted to live.
Right.
So I just reached out persistently over the course of a few months, and then honestly, I kind of just lucked out. Like I was at the top of the inbox with one of my messages when he needed help drastically with something, and he just hit me up, and then I worked super, super, super hard. Like it's literally my entire life, like no regard for my time, no regard for my sleep, energy, etc. And then he saw that and he was like, okay, like this guy is in it for the cause, not just because he wants to make a quick buck off me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you even get in contact with someone like that? What's your cold approach, cold email?
So email was the most effective for me. I would not recommend, if you want to do like a mentorship or mentee-mentor relationship with somebody you see online, don't reach out via DM because they get so many. So I would say email. Okay. Probably the best bet. Go onto the YouTube channel, go to the about page, click on the email, paste it, and then just like send a bunch of messages.
Is there a crazy hook? Like,
what did you say? What was the subject line?
The subject, I mean, I can whip it out if you want to see what the subject line was.
Original email?
I was like, honestly, I was like borderline like begging. Like, because at this point, I'm fine saying that. I mean, I know it's kind of cringe to say like how desperate you were at this, sometime in your life, but I was very desperate for just like meaning in my life. I was desperate for something I could really feel proud of doing. And I think I was just unhappy. Like I didn't see growth in anywhere in my life. I was working as a busser. I didn't think obviously that's not going to go anywhere. Like sure, I could be a server, but that wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I didn't see growth in college. Like I was studying business administration, which honestly, I'm sorry, but like a lot of people study business administration. Okay. What are you going to do with it? I think STEM, if you're going to go to college, and I'm trying not to just yap, but like this is something I feel passionately about. If you're studying STEM, that's like one thing. Sure. College is good for you. If you're studying, be a doctor, be a lawyer, college is good. Anything else, honestly, reconsider.
Bro, but you pulled a crazy move. I want to get to the email, but you dropped out of college with 1 semester to go. Like that's insane.
It was actually 1 year to go.
Really?
I had 1 year to go. Yeah. But I was a very academic guy. So like I had really good grades. I was going to UCSB after transferring from community college. So like it was unquestionable that I was going to finish college. Like there was not a shadow of doubt in my mind I was going to do college. Everyone in my family is a college graduate. I was going to be the black sheep if I dropped out, but I thought it was more risky to stay in college than it was to pursue this thing that I had at that time when I dropped out, been working on for like a year and a half, and things were going really well. I wasn't making enough at the time to justify it, but we ended up renegotiating when I decided to drop out to make it make sense.
But it wasn't like, hey, I'm dropping out and then I might start this business. It was like, you already had something going for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I already had, and Graham and I was like, hey, Graham, so it was summertime, basically, when I was deciding to drop out. And I was like, Graham, I have 1 year left. I'm going to go back to UCSB. I can continue doing this on the side. But by that time, I had taken on so much responsibility that the business probably would not have functioned if I had left. I don't want to say that it wouldn't, like I was so important that it wouldn't have gone on but Graham had gotten used to me doing all of the work that I was doing. We had the podcast going on. We had so many other responsibilities that it would have been extremely challenging. So then we just renegotiated our terms. It was all percentage based. So it was all commission. I just had to work really hard and earn the business a lot of money for me to make a lot of money. And then as soon as we renegotiated, like my income skyrocketed, not skyrocketed. That's like so dramatic, but it went up like a lot.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that I made on these new terms in the first year was like $113,000.
How'd you convince him with like the negotiation?
I didn't have to.
You didn't have to?
Really?
No. Like I had, because he wanted me on board. So like it was more so he was trying to convince me to stay. And I was like, Graham, at this point I was probably making $3,500 a month. And I'm like, dude, like I have 1 year left. I'm not going to drop out for $3,500 a month. I'm sorry. And then we just renegotiated percentages and I was also working a bunch. So you could even argue that even if I was not a college graduate, if I wasn't even in college at the time, $3,500 a month was probably not the fair market value of my labor. But yeah, we just renegotiated and he was happy to, and he's always treated me fairly. But I don't know if you still wanted to see like
the email. Yeah, I want to see the
Okay, so this is horrible. I've never even thought about the subject line. The subject line was lunch.
lunch.
Yeah.
No way.
Can you screenshot it just for later?
There are probably some.
Oh, okay.
Sure, I can screenshot it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, just crop it out, whatever.
But I'll tell you what to like remove
Yeah.
from that. Yeah, because it's pretty desperate, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Is that the move? Just get as desperate as possible.
Probably not. Like in hindsight, it worked for me.
Uh-huh.
So I would say if you want to do what I did, maybe, but it to the average person would probably come off as weird. Graham just so happens to be like not average. He's a very like kind of a weird person, to be frank. So it probably just appealed to him when I was like, I will have no regard for my time or energy. And he was like, all right, cool.
And it was also kind of a timing thing because you reached out at the perfect moment where he needed some help. But to be fair, you reached out a bunch of times so you made
a bunch of times. Yeah. So, I'm not going to just chalk it completely up to luck, right? There was persistence involved in everything. But think about for you guys, like if you're trying to be successful, it really has to do with who you're associated with, right? Like you obviously have the flooring thing going on and that's successful and everything. You have the e-commerce store and everything, but that's because of association with Vlad. And now you're maintaining the store and it's doing great. And I think there's a lot of opportunity with this podcast, and the podcast is kind of happening because the equipment, Vlad's initial like star power and everything. And I think a lot of it has to do with association. So you got to get in the right circles.
100%. Did you reach out to other people besides Graham?
I did. That's funny. That's a funny question. I don't know if I've ever said this. I reached out to 2 other people.
Who?
One, Ethan Klein, H3H3.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Number 2, this is crazy, Sneeko.
Sneeko?
Wow.
Yeah, I reached
Back
out.
then?
Yeah. So this was 2019. Yeah, early 2019, I reached out to Sneeko. He was way smaller. The type of content he was making completely different. It was like self-development, personal growth, transformation content. It wasn't the more, type of stuff he's doing these days, like the Matrix pill stuff. But I was like a huge fan of his content. And he actually got back to me. He said, I was like, I'll have no regard for my time, no regard for my energy. I love what you're doing. I want to help. And he was like, what's the catch? I think that's all he said.
So you had 2 offers on the table, Graham Stephan and the Sneeko offer?
Well, Sneeko passed up on me.
Really? He didn't get back to you after you
No, I said there's literally no catch. Like I will pay for your flight out here. If you want to like record some content, I'll just film. I'll fly to you. I'll do whatever. And I just don't think he bought it. I think he
thought you were trying to get him. He was trying to finesse you.
Yeah, but I just wanted to help. So Sneeko, he missed out. Look at me now, Sneeko. Look at me now. Things are different now.
What about Ethan?
Ethan just didn't respond. He was like massive at the time. So that was a little ambitious of me to think he would get back to me. But yeah.
That would be such a different trajectory.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't be super proud of what I was,
Really?
Yeah. Like I here's the thing, man. I think what Ethan does is good. And I can see he's a genuine being. I don't think he's super ideologically based. Like, I think he's somewhat of an independent thinker, but at the same time, he kind of makes a career out of just like being mean to people online. And that's not something that I personally can, feel super good at the end of the day about like supporting.
Yeah.
And this is not any like a personal attack against Ethan or anything. It's just, and I know a lot of people, they love that content and that is their source of joy in the day when they tune into his live streams and they like listen to that content. That's great. If that brings you joy, that's great. But for me, like I tune into his content and I just notice myself getting frustrated over something or in a worse of a mood. So it's a reflection of myself, not necessarily Ethan.
I mean, I don't think he would argue with you on that. Like his content is a little negative.
Yeah, I think he would agree, which is why, he's not like an ideological thinker. I think he's a fairly independent thinker.
Right. So with what you did with Graham, you're like a huge proponent of working for free, right? You think it's worth it to take the internship, take the work for free up front?
1,000%.
Really?
Yes. And it's a hard pill to swallow. And for me, I will say I was so lucky. I was living with my parents. I had a job. I was grinding. I was working so hard. Graham was giving me a decent amount of work, but I was also working at a restaurant. I was also a full-time student. I was juggling all of these things. So like, yeah, like it took a lot out of me to do it. Other people aren't in such advantageous situations where maybe they have rent to pay. They have bills to pay. They have people relying on them and stuff like that. I didn't have any of that. So it was easier for me to not get paid. But if you want a really hard life to achieve, then you better know that it's going to be very hard to get there. You have to make sacrifices. That's just the name of the game.
Yeah, I think it's even the same way with just regular entrepreneurship, not even like working for free for somebody. With any business that you're going to get into, you're going to work for free for like the longest time before you see anything. So I think that's something you got to be okay with.
And somehow saying this is like the worst thing in the world, but then people are going to college and paying to get a job for 4 years. So you're telling me it's 4 years of their life, right? That's gone, right? You could say that, they party, they have fun, they made connections, et cetera, et cetera. You can do all of that outside of college. And on top of that, the financial damage, right, of student loans, it's hard to compare that. Honestly, when I say, work for free for a year, learn actually in the field that you want to work in, but somehow that's more taboo. I don't know.
You talked about disregarding your time and like just really sacrificing everything. Do you believe in sacrificing your 20s?
No. And I wouldn't have done that. Honestly.
But you were saying in the email that you were.
Yeah. I didn't sacrifice my 20s.
You were just capping. You were trolling. Like, hey.
No, here, people, okay.
The bait and switch?
Here's the thing. I did sacrifice a lot. I didn't sacrifice my 20s, and I never said I would sacrifice my 20s. I sacrificed probably 2 years of my life. And I would not consider it sacrificing because I was building towards something. So it was still an investment. But I did sacrifice a good amount of time of free labor. I sacrificed a good amount of like my sanity because I was, lacking sleep during a lot of those times. Not because of, it's not Graham's fault. It's me taking it stupidly serious and doing
Graham
everything
didn't
that I
let you
can.
sleep?
He's always been great to me. I don't want to say anything negative about Graham, and this is not me just like politically posturing or anything. Like, that's the honest truth. He treats me amazingly. So yeah, like I did sacrifice a lot, but no, I would never sacrifice a decade of my life. What are you, insane?
Yeah,
a decade of my life, the 20s? Like,
okay, to be fair, like 18 to like 22 or whatever.
18,
the
yeah,
prime.
sacrifice it because what you're going to sacrifice it in college anyways.
But I've heard Graham, and maybe this is where you guys are super different, but he's kind of like pushing this agenda of like you should sacrifice your 20s to set yourself up for your 30s. At least I've heard him say that before.
Okay, well let's break this down. What does sacrifice mean?
Just like
no hanging out with friends.
No fun drinks, no
in,
no fun
Matrix,
hangouts. You're
mode.
focused, monk mode.
Why?
So you could set yourself up for when you're older.
Okay, why do you want to be set up when you're older?
I'm not saying
I'm just asking you. I'm
so
just saying
you're in Dubai and you're just chilling, but your friends are out there losing their virginity, doing whatever.
So you're not with your friends?
If
you're by
in monk
yourself
mode,
in a different country?
That's monk mode.
I don't know. You got to go monk mode. Okay, everyone, if you haven't gone monk mode yet, you got to go monk mode right now. No, I would not want to sacrifice my 20s. I would sacrifice a couple of years, and I did sacrifice a good amount of my time. There were certain periods of time in my life where like it was wake up with the laptop beside my bed, lift it up, put it on my lap, and that was early. That was probably 6:30, maybe 6 o'clock. Get in my day trades. No, I'm kidding. And then go through the entire day just grinding. The only time that I had not working was maybe like a 30-minute walk if I could reserve the time. Go do that. I was eating unhealthily. I wasn't exercising, and I was just working the entire day. Go to sleep with my laptop on my bed, wake up, do the exact same thing the next day. And it didn't make me happy. And I would say this was probably the most unhappy that I was in my entire life during this period of time. But at the same time, you can't say that if you want to achieve something that's hard, that it will go without sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. I just wouldn't sacrifice my 20s. The entirety of your 20s. That's a decade of your life. Like that is a significant, if you're going to live till 80, what is that, 12% of your life? It's like about, I don't know. Let's just say 12% of your life. Like that's not an insignificant amount of your life. Don't sacrifice that. Sacrifice a good amount, but let's be real here. Like the 20s, I mean, your body is capable of doing things that you can't do when you're older. So
What would you do if that didn't work out? Like let's say you do 2 years with Graham and then things just aren't working out.
I like to think that I have the mental framework of still being really positive about it. So, and I think that's everything. It's like you win some and you learn some. So I would have liked to think that I had learned some. But I also knew myself. And at that point, I knew Graham really well. And I was like, I'm bullish on this. I had high conviction. And also we did make a clause. This is going to like negate everything I just said. We had a clause in the contract where it's like, if my percentages didn't bring me up to X fixed income, it was $90,000 in that year that I would have worked full time. I was a calendar year. Then he would have brought me up, paid the difference. So I was kind of thinking like $90,000 to take a gap year from college. Like that makes sense. And yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, you would have had the experience to land probably something similar with someone else.
Yeah, 100%. And I was like somewhat known in the community, and Graham spoke really highly of me, and he would have gave me references. And at the time, I mean, still, there are so many financial YouTubers that like would have probably hired me, like Andre or Jeremy or, you know, Ryan Pineda, all those guys. So.
So you were able to get on this massive platform. Why'd you decide not to start doing your own content?
I kind of wanted to. I mean, I got into the industry because I wanted to be a YouTuber as a kid. But I don't know. I think it's different when you're doing something that's like, I like working on other people's things more. I think at the end of the day, I tried my own content. I was doing TikTok street interviews. That was kind of fun. It was, honestly, it was easy. Like that's the lowest hanging fruit of content that you can make. I was thinking to myself, all these people, they're getting like so many views, they're getting so much engagement, so much money from this, brand deals and stuff like that. What happens if I try it? I tried it, and like, I think like the third or fourth video I did just popped off. I just like transferred my YouTube editing skills to short form content, and I just went above and beyond in the editing. I was super selective of the content that I put on TikTok, and they blew up. And it was easy. And I had brands reaching out to me, oh, we want to sponsor you, this and that. Wow. But it was like soulless content for me. Like it was like, okay, like I'm kind of just like going up to people, asking them questions, and nothing against the people that do that. It's entertaining. It brings people happiness. You can learn if you're asking people, how much do you make? And you know, how do you make that money? What is your job? What went into that job? Like that is content that hopefully can inspire people to do that exact same path. It just wasn't for me.
I mean, there's a reason why people watch that. There's a reason why those videos get views. People do enjoy that. And you really actually popped off. I remember seeing it was like, you got over 1 million views on some of those videos.
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, like it was like I was having plenty of people reach out to me on TikTok that are like, I've never seen engagement like this ever before. Like my percentages of like view to like was like crazy. The amount of views that I was getting, the retention I was getting. A lot of people reached out to me like, what is going on? Because I was coming out of nowhere.
Can you make money with that though?
Yeah, you can make money. I had a couple of brand deals and stuff like that. Nothing was crazy because the brand deals I started taking seriously once I was done on TikTok, and then that email was still active and they were like continually hitting me up. But by the end, like I hadn't posted in a super long time. So like the rates were, you know, not like anything like I could have gotten. But I think I did one for like, you know, $700.
Wow.
And that was
for a TikTok?
For a TikTok. Yeah. And that took me, I don't know, realistically, it was probably 5-6 hours of work. And I got like $500 worth of product. So like, that's really good. And I could probably make a 6-figure business if I was doing TikTok street interviews. I just decided not to.
Have you heard about the new thing where they'll actually pay you if your videos are over a minute long? Have you experienced it with that?
So we unfortunately can't do that on the Iced Coffee Hour because the account was created in a different country.
Oof.
Yeah. So we can't make money on our TikTok. And I think it would be a pretty solid revenue source if we were doing that. But it just, I don't know. We don't want to restart the entire account.
Do your TikToks get posted from a different country?
No, they get posted from the United States. The account was just created in a different country, and the TikTok support is just not very good.
Mhm.
So you can't like talk to them and be like, yo, like I told someone to create an account for us because they wanted to try out short form for 30 days. By the way, if you wanted to work for us, that's what it took. Like people were reaching out every single day. We want to create short form. Graham and I were still kind of iffy about it. I was a little more sold than he was. And then this guy reached out and he's like, I'll do it for free for 30 days. And I was like, all right, let's just see how it works. And he was in Canada. And he gave me the login and everything. Then we ended up paying him, switched to a different agency that does our short form now, and it's great.
Yeah, with those kind of emails, because we started getting a ton of those as well. The
Mhm.
ones that I think we actually respond to and the ones we consider, it's when they send a clip beforehand.
Yeah, this
with
genius.
their email. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so you can see the work, you can see the portfolio, you can see they're dedicated.
If you want to work for Nonchalant Podcast, if you want to work for the Iced Coffee Hour, if you want to work for anyone, do the work beforehand because they get reached out to all of the time. You think that you might be unique if you're reaching out saying that you might, you want to help in the same way that I was doing. I thought I was unique. I just kind of got lucky and I was persistent, right? And that was also a long time ago. Things were a little bit different back then. But yeah, do the work up front and just send them, hey, this is what I got. This is what you can get with me.
Yeah, because I mean, they can type out like an elaborate email, but if someone sends a good clip, like
Yeah.
that does all the talking.
Couple clips, Google Drive with
Yeah.
all these clips. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
somebody went crazy. They did
Yeah.
like a whole Google Drive with like 10 clips,
Yeah.
like thumbnails.
Yeah, and you're looking
short
at the
form.
clips
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
gave them a fair shot, these
Yeah.
people. And all these other people that reach out with all of these words without any actual action, you probably didn't really consider.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
take action.
I want to know if you guys want to have Andrew Tate on the podcast.
Most definitely.
100%.
Easy,
100%.
yes.
You would
Easy
do that?
yes. Why not?
Why don't you try? You feel like you have to like level up?
I think so. I keep thinking that Max and TJ keep on saying to just reach out to everyone, but I don't know. I feel like I want to at least get a few reps in with like the guests in my personal network,
Mhm.
and then from there, I think we'll be a little more ready to sit down with like
Yeah.
Andrew Tate.
I think that makes sense. Like Hormozy would say, you can't just like force confidence. You have to give
Mhm.
yourself a stack of undeniable proof that you can do what you say you want.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. So yeah, as long as you feel confident and you have like the stacks of evidence that you can take it on, then you won't be anxious, you won't be nervous, and you'll kill it.
Yeah. You guys seem like you're big enough to get Tate on, but you haven't. He
Yes.
probably doesn't rock with you, or you guys don't rock with him. What's the issue there?
So the thing about Andrew Tate is that I would consider having him on, but I'm also a higher risk taker. Like I wanted Justin Waller on.
Mhm.
That was high risk. I wanted Fresh and Fit on. That was me. Graham didn't want that, right? And I'm very transparent. Like they knew that Graham was apprehensive. Justin Waller knew Graham was apprehensive. But it's not Graham being like a wuss. It really is not. It's him being smart. It's him being a shrewd business person.
Mhm.
Like he has so much more to risk. I have an insignificant amount of money, like an insignificant amount of like fame, clout, reputation, everything. So obviously I'm going to want to go for like these high risk, slam dunk plays. And Graham, it makes sense. So I can't be upset at him for having this different perspective of being a little bit more apprehensive when it comes to stuff like that. And it's no like it's costly, like going all the way out to Romania, traveling with all the gear, several days. Graham's time is worth a lot more than my time is, just to be frank. So like, I understand why he would be apprehensive and I 100% respect that. And he's just being smart. It's like, if I was Graham, I would consider being in the same situation.
I'd be so good though. Like I'd pay to watch that.
Yeah.
You guys can put it behind a paywall.
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to. I don't think like there's an issue. It's something that we have talked about. Like in a way, are we slightly responsible for the people that we bring on and the things that they say? Like it's a bit of a moral dilemma that I think at least I have.
Yeah.
Where it's like if they say things that I really disagree with, but I'm giving them the platform to say that, is that still kind of on me?
So it's hard because I like to think for podcasting, I'm just a journalist. But then again, I hate a lot of journalists because you're like airing out, paraphrasing, taking other studies and stuff like that. And like secondhand information, you're just saying it as though it's fact. And like, I think that you should have some culpability for what you put out. Just in general, I think that that's smart. So I don't want to be a hypocrite and say no, we can have on whoever on the podcast and say whatever, because I'm very critical of the journalists that do exactly that. So it's a really hard line to draw. With Fresh and Fit, I will say there were some things that they said that I just like fundamentally had an issue with, and I decided to cut it out. And that's on me. If you're a fan of Fresh and Fit and you wanted to hear like the full unregulated, uncut podcast, I'm sorry. Like that was just something that I had an issue with. I'm not mixing up their words. I'm not skewing their agenda. I'm not doing any of that. By removing a certain segment of the podcast, I was just like, this is not something that I necessarily want out there. It was, there were some things that I left in that I was like kind of questionable. Like they would call women hoes, and I just don't think that that's like. I don't think if you're trying to get a message across to as a broad range of an audience as possible, don't use words like hoe. Like, I just don't think that, like, I think it's just mean. I think it's teaching people the wrong thing. I think it's super negative, and I'm a big proponent of like spreading positivity and understanding people. But I wasn't a huge fan of that. So I think I cut out a couple of the hoes, and just random stuff like that. It's not usually like, I would never, rearrange somebody's stance, argument, stuff like that.
We got some lashback on calling women females.
That's
for a little
stupid.
bit.
I don't know. Like the people, I don't know. People are gonna have a problem with anything. Calling women female. Okay, what are you supposed to call them? Dudes, males.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit like a lot. For some reason, we just
kept on saying that.
Our vocabulary isn't that great, so we're still working on that.
We're still learning English.
Yeah,
English second language and whatnot for all of us. So
I do think that there is something to like not bending the knee to your audience in some capacity, like or not. That's not even your audience that's going to get mad at you for saying females. It's like some random online hate mob. I don't know, dude. It's funny. I also shout out somebody in my own personal life. Like I called somebody a female and they like called me out on it. It was the first time I ever heard that was like not something you should call a woman. And I was like, what? Is that like not an okay thing to call a woman? And she was like, no. And I was just like mind blown. And then I asked a bunch of women in my own personal life, I'm like, can you call women females? And they're like, it's a little bit disrespectful, this and that. I'm like, when did this happen? Like, I didn't know that this was like this 5 years ago. Was it like a certain day that this happened? Was it a gradual progress in which like you can't call women females? I have no idea.
Yeah, but would you call a female to her face? Like if you're talking to a group
female, come over here.
Yeah, if you're talking to a group of girls, would you call them females?
Hey, females?
Just in general, like in conversation. Because I wouldn't know. I don't talk to girls, but would you?
Would I call these questions, man? Would I call a woman in person a female?
Like, would you reference woman? Let's say you're having a discussion.
I wouldn't talk with a filter, And if female was the word that came to my mind, I would say it. And that's a two-sided, double-edged sword. It's like I generally don't speak with a filter. It gets me in a lot of trouble. Some people appreciate it because they know they're not getting some like weird abstract of some Jack proxy. So I would say, I mean, if they were like, hey, don't call me a female, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. And I'd probably end up doing it again on accident 5 minutes later. And I'd apologize again. But that's just it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think that really is, because it's like, if you're talking about your friend and it's a girl and you're like, hey, this female I was talking to, I mean, that's kind of downplaying who they are. It's like, oh, well, why not just call them your friend?
It's only downplaying it if you like mean it to downplay them, I feel like. I think words are just a proxy for like information. You know what I mean? And it's like the information that would include the surrounding, like the meaning behind it, the feeling behind it. You know what I mean? And if you're encapsulating it with love and good intent, then I feel like you're fine. You know what I mean? If you call someone a female and they take offense to that, it's usually a reflection of themselves. People's behavior is usually a reflection of themselves, not necessarily of your actions to them. So I think it's fine. If they get upset, do them the respect of, trying to change your language. Sure. TeeJay, what do you think? You talk to women all the time, I hear.
Me?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them a female. You got to get rizzy with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So what do you call them?
Shorty.
Girls, shorty. Shorty's a nice one.
Shorty.
But that's a little crazy though. I'd say girl.
You'd say girl
or the first name. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not really sexist like you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it sexist. I would just say I would say I'm glitched out. Yeah, I'm not an agent of the Matrix.
Okay.
I don't know. Look, maybe it's super disrespectful. If so, flame me in the comments. Go ahead, and I'll try to change my language.
Do you have a lot of females in your life? Do you have a female in your life?
I have plenty of women in my life. I have a mother.
Okay. Name 5 females.
Aunt Frank. Grandma, my mom, your mom, his mom.
Let's go.
5, let's go. He's good.
Yeah.
How's the dating life?
The dating life? Dude, this has been like the biggest question for me. I've just been trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm doing too much thinking and not enough acting. But that's, I don't know, maybe my standards are too high. Maybe there's a problem with me. I like to think that there isn't. Maybe there's a problem with Vegas. I don't know. A lot of the times I'll go on dates with people and maybe I'm not giving them a fair shot, but I just don't like them that much.
That's fair.
You don't have to like everybody.
Yeah.
Like that.
Like, no.
you know?
Like I like their, like
But
their
not
character
like-
is cool. Like I
yeah.
respect them and everything. I don't think that they're a bad person, but there's not like this feeling, you know what I mean? And maybe I'm like, I have this Hollywood portrayal of how relationships should be, and it's just completely misaligned with how it is in real life. But that's just been my experience. Like very few times in my life have I talked to,
You're about to say it.
like, you know what I mean? It had that like chemistry.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's good to have standards. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
for sure.
that's you want somebody that you can get along with.
Yeah. Trying to be, this is kind of like a tough conversation to navigate, like, dating women, men, how they're different, how they're the same and everything. No, I'm just saying like relationship dynamics and stuff like that, man. TeeJay, you have anything to say about?
I had a
men?
question though. Do you think the iced out watch is gonna maybe attract the wrong type of females?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I think this is attracting exactly who I want to have interest in me. Are you kidding me, bro?
Oh,
This? No, 100%, man. This is going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
In fact, I should probably do like a photo shoot and like flex this and then put it all up on my dating apps,
100%.
Tinder specifically.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's the way to find true love.
Yeah, Vlad got a wife with a Tissot.
I don't have it on, but
with an
yeah.
iced
You don't have
out.
a Tissot on.
I don't have it. It's upstairs.
You didn't want to flex on me, huh?
He's too intimidated.
You were a little nervous,
It
right?
looked
You,
bad in front of.
you couldn't compete. No, I get it. How'd you find your wife?
It's a little different because it was like a day one.
A day one thing.
Day one female, yeah.
Beautiful.
Day one
Yeah.
female.
What would you think about you calling her a female?
I think she's okay with that. It's not that deep. I think it's so different because we're so used to just being like, hey, dude, hey, bro. It's just so normal for us to refer to other men as men and dudes and bros and whatnot. And then it's like, girls don't do that, I don't think.
Also, I will say, like, I grew up with not a sister, didn't have a sister, didn't have any like super close, woman friends. Super close, like woman friends, you know what I mean? And all of my friends growing up were dudes. Like, women were kind of this like scary unknown entity to me. I just grew up with a brother and a dad and a mom. So I didn't really know how to talk to women my age or anything. So I feel like it's kind of like that could potentially make me, have some weird like language, a weird perception of women. I could call them females and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do think though it really helps like grow up with like a girl neighbor and just like be friends with her or have a sister. Like all of that stuff really will help, I think, in the dating marketplace to like just know how to talk to women, and a lot of guys that don't have that, they just talk to women like there's some like alien like figure. And I definitely suffer from this. Like I talk to them, like you go through my texts, I have heard this so many times. Jack, it sounds like you're trying to negotiate like a business deal. Jack, it sounds like you're like talking to me like this
Could
work
we see that?
correspondence. Sure. I mean, you can see any of the texts that I have with like any girl I'm talking to right now if you want.
Bro,
Give us
Can
the
we?
craziest one.
do you think girls are real?
That's funny you ask that because I've been thinking about this a lot lately.
They're kind of sus. I don't know.
If women are real,
They're like the
I think-
birds, the birds, they're the
bots.
parts, the bots
They're not.
from the government.
I think it's I think they're agents of the Matrix. I think that they're fake. I think they had too much Red 40.
It's a psyop.
It's a psyop. It's all fake.
Yeah.
So I would be wary of them. If
That's
you
why
want
you text the way you do.
how about this? At the end of the podcast, you guys can go through one of my chats with women. This is a retention hack, okay?
All right.
And in the middle of the
Let's do
podcast, what we're gonna do? Most controversial take. Say it.
I can't, bro.
Yeah,
I don't-
Agents of the Matrix. Most controversial take. Say it.
Bill, we're getting canceled.
Agents of the Matrix. You guys will not
Yes.
say it.
I am a good servant.
What's
of
yours?
the Matrix.
What's yours?
My most controversial
Yeah,
take.
what is it? It's going in the intro, by the way.
Sure. I'll give you my most controversial take, and I'm probably gonna get canceled for saying this. That's for the intro. Honestly, we had a good conversation on the iced coffee hour about this, not just shouting out my everyone thinks like I'm just like shouting out my I'm not. I really am not. But we had a good conversation about like if people are poor, is it their fault? And I think that's a super controversial take. And I don't think by and large, 100% of the time, yes, that it's your fault. But I am a proponent. I am a positive thinker insofar as like, I think people have way more control over their life than what they actually think. People think that they are just a product of their environment, of the people that they surround themselves by. They think that they are all of their past decisions. And I think, no, any time is a great time to change and be exactly who you want to be. If
Mhm.
you're mad, I genuinely think you can just stop like that.
Wow.
If you're angry, if you're sad over something, you can literally just be like, okay, I'm just going to brush this off. I think it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many different mental models that
Mhm.
can help you out with that. Like a lot of the times you're mad because you think somebody was malicious to you. They wanted to hurt you. A lot of the times I like to think, what is it called? It's some mental model. I'll tell you what it is after
Mhm.
the fact. You could just edit it in. But it's never, I think Napoleon Bonaparte actually was the first person that said this. That was never attribute to malice what could be attributed to carelessness.
Mm.
Yeah. Carelessness, selfishness,
Mhm.
incompetence, ignorance. A lot of people are just those things, including myself. And I don't want, when I'm being careless or ignorant, for somebody to think that I was being malicious, because I really am not a malicious person. Like, I want to help people. And you guys are all the same. And basically every person viewing this is exactly the
Mhm.
same. Like, people aren't doing things to hurt you.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like you can disagree with that, but you also have to think whether adopting this mindset is more beneficial than adopting the opposite. And I think it's hard to say that it's more beneficial for you to adopt the mindset where you don't think you have as much control over like your future.
It's
and
harder
whatnot.
to adopt that mindset?
I don't think it's as beneficial.
Why?
'Cause
Wait,
it's
wait.
like, if
That you don't have control.
like the initial thing that you said, right?
Mhm.
That you don't have control. At the end of the day, like I don't think that you have 100% control of your life, right?
Yeah, of course.
But if you think that you have no control and that everything that happens, you're just a victim,
Mhm.
I like that's
Oh,
not
it's not
going to
get you anywhere. And it's
Yeah.
not a loving thing to tell people that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's not going to
it's-
get them where they want to be. It is like kind of a hateful thing. It's kind of like pushing them down. Yeah, you're this way because of all of these things that you can't control. So I like to think you point the finger of responsibility, not at everything else, but at yourself,
Mhm.
because that's like also the finger of power. You know, you're giving the
Yeah.
power to yourself. This is my responsibility to change my life. It's nobody else's. Nobody's going to fix my life, only me. And the only time
Mhm.
to start is right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Can you give us an actual like controversial take though?
And that is super controversial. Like, you'd be surprised, probably because you have a hustle like audience. Everyone's gonna be like, yeah, I'm going to take control of my own life. Everything's going to be cool. Start drop shipping and move to Dubai. Like,
Let's go.
I think that's controversial. I'll give you some more. I mean, obviously there are certain things I probably shouldn't say because I'm an agent of the Matrix.
We're all the Matrix.
I'm happy to say it. Like, I have no, I'm
Right.
not uncomfortable saying these sorts of things. I'm obviously not going to say anything that's going to cancel me.
But you do believe in a lot of things that are going to get you canceled, like
Yeah.
in real life.
Yeah, and everyone does, specifically men. Like, if
Yeah.
you like, let's be real here.
Say something crazy.
Let's be real here. Like, there are certain things that you don't say around certain people, and then you break that wall and you say a certain thing in front of them that you think they're going to get mad at you for saying. They'll be like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that wrong? I mean, should we just be honest and just speak our mind?
Yes. Be honest.
All right.
This is an
That sounds crazy.
objective yes. Be honest with yourself and with the people around you.
But you still wouldn't say everything that you believe in.
Not publicly. No,
Mhm.
because I'm also running a business. So,
True.
like,
Yeah.
let's, you know, like, what good am I if I'm like deplatformed or whatever that even means? You know what I mean?
So your honest takes would get you deplatformed. I'm just kidding.
Would yours?
Yeah,
There you go.
probably.
Probably me too.
Yeah, if I was 100% honest about all the things that I believe in,
Yeah.
I don't know about deplatform to be honest, but
Yeah. Okay.
I think people would
Deplatform.
have an issue.
People would have an issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't get deplatformed.
The more hard opinions you have, the more you have people agreeing and disagreeing with you.
yeah,
Again, it's like, is there a net benefit to you airing those things out? Probably not. So
No, because what good am
why
I
fuck
if
with it?
you know, like if I'm gone?
yeah.
So another controversial opinion. I want to give you one more juicy controversial opinion. Everybody thinks that they have like mental illnesses, and I think
Mm.
a lot of them are mental illness proxies, if that makes sense.
Can
so,
you
like,
elaborate?
Yeah. So like growing up, I've always thought I have ADHD. Like as a
Same.
kid, like I struggled to remember things. That's like a big thing of ADHD. It's like I would leave my homework in certain places, not on purpose, but I would just leave it at school and I'd have to go. And I was friends with the janitor because every single time that my mom would pick me up and we're driving back to my house, she's like, did you remember your homework? And I said, no. She'd have to drive me back, go talk to Gary, the janitor. He'd be like, which class did you leave it in? He'd walk me over to the class, open up the door, and I grab my homework. Other random things, focusing, struggled so much with it growing up.
Mhm.
And I'm sure a lot of people watching this relate. Or maybe in the past couple of years, you've had struggles with these things. I think when I say mental illness proxies, it's because of the environment that we put ourselves in. which is our responsibility, realistically. Like, you are responsible for the environment you put yourself in. If you're spending all of your time on TikTok, you're spending all of your time just giving yourself stimulation in every way possible, then yeah, like, you're going to have focus problems. You're going to stop remembering things because your brain is going to be elsewhere and time is going to be passing. When you're not growing, you're just probably, if anything, degrading your brain. So like, sure, you're going to have a proxy for mental illness. And I think this goes across the board for a lot of different mental illnesses. And we actually had Dr. K, who's a Harvard psychiatrist, on our podcast. And he said, people say autism rates are going up, which I think there is data affirming that. But a lot of it has to do with like proxy autism. People have symptoms of autism without actually having the fundamental chemical imbalance of autism because of the way that our environments are changing and the way that we're spending our time.
Wow. I don't know about autism and things like that, but the ADHD thing I think is a really big one. I mean, everybody's getting diagnosed with ADHD or even self-diagnosing. And it's like, of course, I mean, you're on TikTok all day and it's like.
What did you think was going to happen?
Do you think like a lot of these perceived mental illnesses can be solved by just going outside, going to the gym?
Dude, there are so many basic things that we could be doing to improve our own lives that people just knock to the wayside every single day. Going outside, taking off your shoes and socks, getting grounded.
Let's
go. Just watch some Liver King videos, guys. That's what you got to do. Now, I would say, like, don't wake up and go immediately on your phone. Sleep with your phone on the other side of your room or outside of your room. I heard drinking coffee not right after you wake up is smart. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know if that backs it up. I can just say what's worked for me in my own personal life. Don't go on your phone immediately after you go to bed. Right after you wake up. Don't go on your phone immediately before you go to bed. Don't spend a bunch of time on TikTok, YouTube Shorts on your phone. Try to keep your like screen time under probably 3 hours a day, which is also just ridiculous that I even have to say that. Like 3 hours a day it's an eighth of, so like, let's say from 0 to 80, that's 10 years of your life that you're just going to be on your phone rather than experiencing what actually exists. This doesn't exist. Going to the gym, working on your physical fitness and health, cardio, not skipping out on cardio, which is something I personally do. I need to work on, and having good relationships. I think like being around people and being social and having friends that you can count on, that will drastically improve your way of life. And also not having an ideological perspective. Like, don't find some ideology, find some person online, some dogmatic person like Tate, like Justin Waller, like, I don't know who's on the, probably like H3. Well, actually I said he was
Destiny.
Destiny, maybe. He's also political. Pretty independent. Yeah. I don't know, just people online and just be like, everything that they say is right. Don't do that because it isn't, think for yourself.
Yeah. Did you ever actually get diagnosed with ADHD?
I did.
Really?
Yeah. And that was when I was younger. I probably was pretty late to the train anyways. I was probably like 18 maybe. And then I started taking Adderall and I was taking it every single day. You take Adderall?
No.
Any of you guys been diagnosed with ADHD?
No. I haven't been diagnosed.
Do you know a friend with ADHD?
Yeah.
And do they take Adderall?
Yeah.
Do they act differently?
Yeah. No, I have some friends that took Adderall and then they got off it and it was a really bad experience.
To get off of it?
Yeah.
Were they addicted?
Really, really tough. Yeah.
Interesting. So I took it every single day with increasing dosages. I went all the way up to 20 milligrams of XR per day for probably about a year and a half of my life. And then a very close friend of mine, say his name's Jack as well. He's the guy I'm going on that vacation with. He was like, dude, by the way, you're kind of hard to be around when you're on Adderall.
Whoa.
It's just different. And he said that and it struck me. I mean, like, hearing this from somebody that is in your court at all times, I'm going to trust him. I'm 100% going to trust this guy. He is like my best friend. He's always been with me since I was 4. I'm like, okay, all I needed to hear. And I quit cold turkey.
Wow. How was that?
Yeah. No withdrawals?
No. Like I do think that there are genetic dispositions to addictive nature. And I don't think I really have an addictive nature. It's always been kind of easy for me to just like quit things. Not that I've tried many things that would, I would be addicted to. Caffeine, maybe. But yeah, I didn't have any withdrawal symptoms. I literally I had the pill bottle and I was like, okay, that's an easy decision. I just never really felt the urge to get back on it. I do still have the prescription. And now I realize going completely off of it probably wasn't a smart idea too, because I do have ADHD. So I do take it maybe once every 2-3 weeks. I'm prescribed for more than I take. I take probably 3 milligrams when I do take it, just a minute amount. And that's it.
Do you ever miss it? Like Did it help
No.
you lock in and focus? Because I hear it's like a big thing in colleges. You got to start
You know what's
taking it for
crazy?
exams, all of this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it does help, obviously. Like, it makes you focus. But here's the weird part. The time that in my life when I was taking Adderall, I don't even remember it.
Whoa.
I was disassociating was a big one. A big problem, I think, is that I had like acute, not real, like, but I think I had acute depression. And that's why I went to actually go see a psychiatrist. And then they prescribed me Adderall because I also saw I had ADHD. And a big symptom of my depression that I was experiencing was like I was falling asleep all the time. And so I would go to class, I would come back, I would sleep on the couch, go to class, come back, sleep on the couch again, go back to my final class, come back, sleep on the couch, and then sleep throughout the entire night, wake up, go back to class. I was just sleeping all of the time. So they also gave me Adderall to stay awake throughout the day. And then I saw it also fixed all of these problems that I had suffered from my entire life. So I was just like, Adderall fixes this? More Adderall, more Adderall, more Adderall. You know, like I'm getting good results, so why not take more? And then I had that, conversation with my friend, and I just quit.
What do you say you were like when you were on it?
I would say hyper analytical.
Okay.
Like hyper analytical, very, very deep, very just like a lot. Like you don't want to hang out with a friend that all of the time is just like, dude, and then this, and then this, and then just like, and you're just like, dude, can we just like chill?
Yeah.
Can we just like play Smash or something like that? Like, why does everything have to be so deep, and just like that. And honestly, kind of void of having a personality, honestly. But I was happy. Like you take it and you have all these endorphins running through your body and it makes you feel good. It makes you want to, like I remember there was a period of time, like I hadn't felt this way in such a long time. And then I took Adderall, just like sheer bliss throughout my entire body. I was skateboarding back from class. I was just listening to music and I was just skateboarding. And I was just like, I feel like tingles all over my body because I'm just like, I just feel happiness. Like the sun is feeling extra bright today. Like the temperature is perfect.
You're really
my
selling
clothes
it,
feel
bro.
good. I don't want to sell it because I stopped, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I stopped.
This is the best day of my life.
But I just felt bliss.
Yeah.
But if I look back, hardly remember anything from when I was taking Adderall. Honestly, it was just like a blip in the timeline.
Yeah, I don't know much about it either, but I know some people that were on it for a long time, and after they got off of it, it took them a long time to really get their like mojo back, just to be happy, like just really to get yourself to do something without it, to feel something without it was really, really difficult for them. So it took like maybe a year or two to like really just get back and like enjoy just walking outside and like enjoy getting to work and getting things done.
So that to me sounds like they were kind of abusing it.
Yeah,
in a sense.
They definitely were. It was like,
it wasn't a crutch. It was like something that they relied on. They were addicted to it.
Yeah.
And they weren't being intentional about it.
And I think a lot of people are addicted to it. I mean, with all these
Yes.
prescriptions, it's so easy. I mean, you didn't get addicted to it, which is great, but a lot of people are. It's so accessible.
I wasn't intentional about it, which I think is like one of the first steps to addiction. It's like when you're not thinking about it and it's kind of just becoming this like subconscious thought, this thing that it doesn't even occur to you, kind of like with people with vapes. I know a lot of it actually isn't the nicotine, but it's the oral fixation. And when you feel like you just need to have something in your mouth, like that is this just like driving factor that's bringing you to it. And I think that's kind of the same with like Adderall. It's kind of like the unintentional, just like need to have something in my mouth starts the addiction. And then you become reliant on the substance itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I hear people do like lollipops to quit vape.
Lollipops, chewing gum
Yeah.
is another one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but I feel like if I went to a doctor when I was young, I'd probably get diagnosed with some. Because I remember listening to on some sort of spectrum. Because I remember listening to your podcast and you guys had someone on and they mentioned that they were diagnosed with something and they had this thing where they had to like close the door 5 times. They had to turn a light switch off and on like 5 times.
OCD.
OCD?
That's probably OCD.
Because I remember growing up, I had that where like I have to do it, like I throw a ball, I have to do it a few more times until I hit the number of members in my family or like everyone's going to die. I have to hit the switch. Yeah.
You've never talked about this before?
I'm not like publicly. I've talked about it like.
And has that stopped?
Yeah. That definitely.
Did you work on it? Did you pray about it or something?
They just naturally, like as I grew up, it stopped. But if I went to a doctor at that point, like I probably would have got prescribed with something.
Yeah, you could have got prescribed something. And then like, I think the prescription kind of like elongates that thing. And I think like a lot of people, they take Adderall and then they get the ADHD proxy when they're off of Adderall. So it's probably a good thing that you didn't get medicated.
I mean, thugged it out.
That's crazy. So you literally thought your family was going to die.
I don't think. I don't know if I literally thought it, but it's something that
It was enough to throw a
I
ball
had
against
to.
the wall a couple of times.
Wow.
Light switches, the ball, and it was crazy because I kind of self-diagnosed when I was listening to your podcast. Like you had someone on that mentioned that.
I don't remember that episode. I had so many conversations.
Maybe it was somebody. Oh, it might have been on Joe Rogan. Actually, my bad. But
that's a pretty common
OCD?
thing. It's like, yeah. So it's like,
Can you diagnose me real quick?
so I am a medical professional.
What do I need
Dr.
to
Selby.
take?
Immediately 20 milligrams Adderall a day.
Gotcha.
Red 40 every single day.
Red 40 max.
And a gallon of tap.
Let's go.
I mean, that sounds to me like OCD. I recently watched, Soft White Underbelly.
Yeah, I love it.
So they had on a girl with OCD, and she was talking about all of these things, and it's like very similar to that. So it sounds like it, but it's great it went away. Like that.
Yeah.
That gives me a lot of hope that hopefully things just kind of go away. Right?
I should watch that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. That's cool though. I had no idea. That's such an interesting thing.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah,
Have you guys ever felt that?
Yeah, like when I was a child, I felt kind of the same thing.
So what was
Like,
yours?
If I was like playing basketball, I had to make the last shot before I went inside.
But that's
Well, that's I
different.
think that's because I mean every guy. I
Are
feel
you
like-
downplaying his mental?
My OCD.
Well,
Just kidding.
what would happen if you didn't make that last shot?
The whole world would just explode.
Oh, really?
But
Nah,
you're just
no.
making it in your head. You're kind of like, oh, like 30 seconds left on the clock. I got to make this.
Nah, it wasn't that tragic, but yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody experiences some levels of it, but if you get fixated on it, so like I could claim OCD too. Like whenever growing up or even right now, certain things on my nightstand have to be in a particular way, set up. And if it's like my watch is like a little off, I have to fix it and make sure it's straight,
Mhm.
And it's like, do I have OCD? Maybe,
You need Adderall, brother.
So I don't know.
That's interesting. I mean, I had the same basketball thing. It's like if I don't make this last shot, like probably something really bad is going to happen. But at the very bare minimum, next time I play basketball, I'm going to be a lot worse. That's kind of like my logic with that. I feel like a lot of people have that basketball thing. People down below in the comment section, comment if you feel like you have to make the last basketball shot.
This is a crazy conversation, but we might as well record. Speaking about all of this, what do you think about therapy? If you're going to therapy and you're talking to these guys and they tell you that you do have OCD, you do have ADHD, is it good for everybody to explore these little things in their life and get fixated on them and then try to fix them?
I don't think that you should get fixated on it. I don't think it's a good thing to identify with it. Like even for me, like I don't like identifying as somebody who has been afflicted with ADHD. You know what I mean? I just kind of think that it's something, right? And I shouldn't be ignorant of it because it does have an effect on me. So I should learn how I can use that to my advantage. In the same way, I don't think like if you think that you're suffering from something, just don't think that that's like an infection in you. But I do think it's probably a good idea to explore it if it's affecting your life in a net negative way, right? Like always try to make everything in your life affect you in a net positive way. If you have somebody in your life, like a relationship with somebody in your life, and like it's good, but it's also bad, but it's mostly bad, stop it or fix it. Same thing for, if you're suffering from maybe some perceived mental illness, it's like, okay, net negative, fix it. Or seek help. I did see something actually. It was really interesting.
Scrolling TikTok mid-pod.
It's funny actually. I just got a text from a girl.
Let's go.
Let us help you with a reply.
She texted me, "Hi, it's Natasha from Insta," and I just forgot to respond. That was yesterday, and then she said, "Sorry, it took me so long."
You got to be nonchalant. You got to be.
I
All right, let's think
you
of a
lost your
response.
chance. You lost your chance.
Think
Next.
that was my bad. I did not respond. I should have responded. Let me find this. This might take a second.
Elriz,
Bro, you're in a good spot. The double text.
leave her on red.
Bro, give it another day
Read the
and then be
messages.
like, sorry, I was super busy. Just lots of business stuff. I got motion.
So here's a screenshot I found on therapy. I found it really interesting, and Elon Musk has to do with this too. So that's a low retention thing. This guy, Matt Van Swole, posted, I'll send you guys a screenshot. Super hot take. The normalization of therapy is becoming a bad thing for society. I'm seeing more and more people, 1, use the fact that they are in therapy as a get out of jail free card for awful behavior. 2, believe everything their therapist says as gospel truth with no further research required. 3, equate the act of going to therapy with the actions of being a good person. Now, I'm not saying therapy is bad for everyone, but I am seeing a trend of less personal responsibility for bad behavior and a lot more talk about therapy as the only solution. Elon Musk responded to that with this emoji.
Wow.
Target emoji.
Yeah,
Spot
bullseye.
on.
Spot on.
And I do think that that's true. I think a lot of people think that if they go to therapy, it's like it does equate you to you like being a good person and like solving the problem, which I think it does contribute to solving the problem. But you also don't want to think everything your therapist is saying is gospel truth and that they can also like fix your problems. You need to take responsibility for your problems. They're just supposed to help bring it out of you. So
Yeah. What's the criteria to become a therapist?
well, as a therapist myself, I think you have to go to school, I hope. I have no idea.
Is it like a certification or is it like a 4-year degree?
Why don't we find out?
That's
Yeah.
TeeJay. You're the-
TeeJay, is that you?
Yeah. Jamie, pull it up.
Jerry, pull it up. But even if you do have to get some sort of schooling, at the end of the day, it's just the person. And like this person can diagnose you with something, give you life-altering medication. So I feel like at the very least, you have to go to a couple before you hop on something like that.
All right. Jamie in the cut. To become a licensed therapist in Nevada, individuals must complete a graduate degree in counseling or a related field, complete supervised clinical hours, and pass a licensing exam.
Okay. I mean,
Now, I do wonder if there are ways you can like skirt it, like online education, ChatGPT. I don't know. I would say like, they should be pretty educated if you're like a licensed therapist. I would say for diagnoses, could be completely wrong, could be sounding like an idiot, but I think you should probably go to a psychiatrist. I think there's a difference as far as like the schooling goes with that, but I could be wrong.
Therapists can't prescribe?
no, no, I don't think so.
I think they can refer you.
Okay.
Yeah, and with a strong referral to a psychiatrist that can then prescribe, I think. Yeah.
I agree with what you just read out loud. I mean, I think it can be just like a cop out, Oh, I'm working on it. I'm going to therapy, and it's like,
And
it's kind of like going to church. Like, oh yeah, I'm working on it. I'm going to church, and you can clock in 2 hours a week, go to church, but that doesn't mean anything.
Okay? So like, how do you fix the problem then?
The therapy problem, like the mental health problem?
Well, yeah. How do you fix the mental health issues then?
I think it would probably have to do with like the basics, like treating
but
yourself right.
The thing is, they don't want to do that. Like they don't want to accept that that's the solution to their problem.
Right. Because we have a society nowadays that props up victims, and the more of a victim you are, the more powerful you are, the more your words should mean, the more people are supposed to like respect you and empathize you and everything. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think that you should, sure, feel for victims of certain things that are actually real. Like there are victims here, and mental illness does make you a victim for sure in some capacity. But A, do you want to see yourself as a victim? And B, do you want to make the victims the people like the heroes, the people of power? It's like probably not. Like you want to continue to get closer to the heroes, to the people of power, like the people that are spreading positivity and like, I don't know, just not suffering in some capacity.
Have you tried therapy?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
A few different therapies. So I had a therapy through my insurance. I had a therapy. I actually went to therapy when I was sleeping all the time because I knew something was wrong with me. I didn't know what it was. And I figured it probably had to do with ADHD. My brother has ADHD as well. So I was like, okay, this probably makes sense. And then that therapist told me, okay, like that was through the school. And she was like, you should go to one through your insurance. And I was like, okay. And then I went through one for my insurance, and then she referred me to a psychiatrist. And I was in I had another therapist for a little bit of time. I haven't had a therapist for a long time. Like all of my therapy sessions have been like a few months, maybe 6 max. And then I do BetterHelp.
No way.
Yeah.
We're not affiliated.
You get high on your own supply?
Yeah. I like it.
Wow.
It's good. I mean, it's online, so I just log in. It's super easy. You just like chat with your therapist, and you can send messages, do video calls and stuff like that. And if you don't like them, you can switch your therapist immediately.
Can you achieve the same thing just by having some good friends around you and having some time to talk to your friends and family?
What if you just thug it out? What do you think about thugging it out?
Just ignore it?
Just thug it out.
I mean, I think that there is like peace, like inner peace in being like, nah, I don't have those things.
Mhm.
Kind of. Yeah. Okay. If you truly believe that you do not have those things, if you truly believe that, I do think that that is kind of helping out with that problem. Kind of. Unless if you're like, nah, I don't have all of these things going on, but you consistently find yourself in the same place. It's like, okay, are you better or worse having that belief system? Let's look at this not through an ideological lens. Let's not look through this through like an opinion-based lens. Let's look at the stat sheet. Where's your weight at? Where's your muscles at now versus back then? Where's your overall happiness if you're tracking your happiness at now versus then? What about your relationships with your friends, with your family, stuff like that? Your career, how's that at now before then? And if it hasn't changed at all, or if it's gotten worse, then it's like, okay, let's try to look at the problem and just do process of elimination. How can we solve this and trying out different results?
So you say all of this and you bring up that tweet and how Elon Musk agrees with that. But then on your podcast, I've noticed you'll promote something like BetterHelp. Do you have like an ethical dilemma with that?
I do not have an ethical dilemma with that because I've seen good results with BetterHelp. And that's because I think I'm being really intentional about it. I think the whole idea of this tweet is being unintentional about therapy and equating going to therapy about being a good person. And it's not. It's like, okay, you have to be intentional in therapy, like actually thinking about all of the tools that they give you outside of therapy to see a good result. I think like therapy can be good for sure for a lot of people, but a lot of people, it's bad for them because it masks their real problem. So for me, it's working. And so I continue to do it and I've had great results so far. So I would encourage like close friends of mine that I feel like it would make sense for, to try it out. Yeah.
You tried it?
I haven't tried it.
You've never been in therapy?
I've never been in therapy, no.
How about you?
No.
Never.
My therapy is like prayer, honestly.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And it works for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I haven't been to like a licensed therapist, but I have like met with like mentors and like people from church, pastors, yeah, and maybe that's my version of that.
Yeah.
But with promoting something like BetterHelp, you're also kind of glorifying and pushing this idea of therapy, right? I see a lot of, and I don't mean to put that on you,
No,
but
go for
I
it.
also see a lot of like TikToks and whatnot. Everybody's glorifying mental illness and glorifying.
I think that's different.
You think that's different?
Glorifying solutions, well, if used appropriately and you have the intent, then it is a solution. Like that should help, right? Like talking about your problems and having an expert in that field helping you walk through your emotions. If you got a good therapist, yes, it will help. But it depends, it's a very nuanced argument, but it depends about your relationship with therapy. If it's a good relationship, keep doing it. But a lot of people, like this tweet, have a bad relationship with therapy.
Yeah, I can definitely see how it could be a net positive if like you really do need the therapy and you're just nervous about going to a therapist. Then
what do you think about therapy?
I do agree with that tweet. I think it's a little dangerous to just blindly follow what a therapist tells you, to just make that your God and like just blindly follow this individual, because at the end of the day, they're just a person. It's the same way that if I had something serious like health-wise, I don't think I would trust a single doctor to tell me like, that I have this or that or place a diagnosis on me, because they could be wrong. So you kind of got to...
I agree with that 100%, without a doubt. But that depends on your relationship with therapy. It's not a problem with therapy itself. Because you get therapy from different areas, right?
But I don't know if I'm answering your question, but at the end of the day, like, I think your therapist really matters, like who the person is, right? Because like you might have had a great experience, but somebody goes to somebody less qualified or somebody that doesn't have as good of intentions, and that could ruin your life.
But is that a problem with therapy in and of itself, or is that a problem with your relationship with therapy?
That's the model of therapy overall.
Yeah, I guess your relationship with therapy.
Because
that's a good point.
You still get therapy in other areas, right? Maybe it's not from a therapist, but it's people kind of acting as a proxy for a therapist, right? And a therapist, you could even argue, okay, well, they've studied it. They have all these other clients, all this information, all this data. How can we use this to help out this person? And so sure, there are bad therapists, 100%. And they can ruin you, 100%. Yeah. I don't think that there's a problem with therapy. I think that there's a problem with people's relationships. And I think that these people that probably wrote this tweet would agree. I don't think you should completely ignore your problems, especially if over time you see your problems getting worse and you're in therapy, right? Then it's probably either your therapist, maybe you're using therapy as, as gospel. Maybe you think that that's solving the problem, but it's not. So like reevaluate for sure. But if you're struggling with something and you see it get worse and worse and worse, and you try all these solutions and they don't get better, then I would recommend therapy. Would you not?
I think ultimately, like you obviously shouldn't take advice from me because not only am I not qualified, I've also never had personal experience with therapy. But I just think it is a good idea to try a lot of like natural like health solutions before you resort to therapy and prescription and all that.
I 100%.
But I'm sure it can be helpful in certain cases.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
because if I 100% agree with that. I think a lot of these like proxy mental illnesses can be solved with like the simple things: getting healthy, going to the gym, being around your social group, the stuff that I mentioned earlier. But if that stuff isn't working, then I don't think like, like if it's not working, then try something else. And I think there's nothing wrong with trying out therapy. I've had great results, so I don't really have a problem recommending it to other people. I'm not just being like, a charlatan, like preaching or not practicing what I preach. Like it has helped me and made an impact. So yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I think the biggest qualm I have with therapy is similar to that of a doctor. Like if I'm going to a doctor and they're telling me how to be healthy, but they're not healthy themselves, or if I'm going to like a soccer coach and they don't know how to play soccer, it's like, should I listen to them? And how do you know that your therapist is happy and good and well?
I would just say being intentional and then looking at your stat sheet and seeing how it changes over time with this, solution with this method, with that tool. Is the tool effective or is it not effective? And be intentional about it. So that's why I think it's not a problem with therapy itself, just with a lot of people's relationships with therapy and, maybe the culture of therapy. I think that's kind of, sketchy too. I just know it's worked for me. You know what I mean? So
I feel like you didn't say anything controversial.
Here is a disclosure. Don't listen to everything we say as gospel. We don't have all of the answers. We have only our own personal experiences and maybe some data, but mostly our own personal experiences. Try things out for yourself, think for yourself, and don't find some dogmatic person online that tells you all of these things will make you happy, because maybe it worked for them, but it doesn't work for everybody. If there was a recipe, a solution for everything in life, all the things people are saying online, then everyone would be happy and fine, which isn't the case.
I would co-sign on that.
Yeah, that's a good way to end the therapy talk.
TeeJay, you co-signing?
I'm co-signing.
Co-sign.
I want to ask TeeJay a question.
What's up?
Okay.
TeeJay
How do you improve your Riz?
Me?
Yeah.
Repetitions.
Go
out there, put yourself in that situation, do it again and again.
1 out of 10. How's your Riz?
5 out of 10.
When's the last time you talked to a girl?
Like 3 years ago. Nah.
Honest answers only.
You just don't you don't make it like a big thing. Like you just talk to a girl, bro. That's what I'm saying. It's just a girl. It's a human being. It's not like a bob, bro. But
An age in the Matrix, bro.
5 out of 10 Riz. If I put 100 shots down, 10 sets of 10 reps, and let's say I hit 2% conversion rate,
Okay.
I still got 2 numbers, bro, out of 100.
Okay.
That's true. That's
two numbers out of 100?
That's facts.
2
that's
out of 100.
Still 2. 2 is 2.
I don't
brother.
think that's
2.
It's a numbers game, brother.
Yeah.
No, you're staying up, but I don't think that's like the conversion rate. Would you be happy with a 2% ad conversion rate?
I mean, I feel like that's
let's say
for
that's
most
pretty good.
e-com stores.
Okay, let's say conversion rate from like on your website to closing.
But they're not on your website, brother. You got to approach them.
Yeah, it's cold approach.
What do you rate your Riz out of 10?
I mean, if TJ's a 5, I'm like a 1, bro.
What about you?
Bro, same. TJ's our beacon right here.
The Riz bastard.
Is that really the case?
That's why he's here.
You going on any dates while you're in Vegas?
I don't do that, bro.
No.
They come to me. They come to the crib.
No, we're really bad people to ask.
Well, you guys are married.
Yeah,
You're like the perfect people to ask.
I'm married to like a day one girl, like out of high school type of thing. So I don't
So
have.
you think you lucked out?
I mean, bro, I got some Riz back in the day, but yeah.
But you haven't exercised that muscle?
Yeah, I just haven't exercised it yet. So.
How long you been married?
Almost a year now. Coming
Almost
up on a year.
And then you?
6 months. 6-7 months.
6-7 months.
Yeah.
Does it feel different, the relationship with the marriage? For you, it did, because you guys weren't living together beforehand.
Same thing here, though.
You weren't living together beforehand.
Yeah.
Interesting. No prenups?
Not for me.
I don't got enough bread to have a prenup.
Just going straight into it, huh?
Yeah.
That's a crazy one, the no prenup on this guy.
I don't know. I respect it. I'm not going to be, I keep using this word, but dogmatic and say like everyone needs a prenup. It's probably smart, but if you feel comfortable not having one and you're a smart person, I don't feel like I need to tell you anything about that.
No, I feel like for me with a prenup question, it's like I don't really care. Like when I entered into this marriage, like the legal aspect of it and the financial aspect is so minuscule compared to like the covenant we're entering in front of God, like the promise we're making in front of God, that like that's a lot more, like breaking that covenant is so much more frightening than losing half of my money. That like that's not even really a concern for me. And I'm okay with burning the ships. You know, I don't want a way out. I want to do everything possible to make this relationship succeed. And I think a prenup, at the end of the day, like I'm not against it. Don't, you know, I'm not giving marriage advice. Don't listen to me on prenups. But I think in our case, it would drive a little bit of a wedge. I think it can drive a little bit of a wedge. And this is, again, I'm not against prenup. If it works for you, that's great.
That's interesting. You should listen to our podcast with James Sexton still.
I've listened to a lot of his stuff.
Because we have extensive conversation about prenups.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about it on the Wide Underbelly as well.
Yeah.
I did my research. I talked to lawyers. I know the legal ramifications of what I'm doing. It's not like a completely blind, like, oh, I'm so in love, I'm just going to do this. It was a premeditated decision.
I 100% understand like that take that you just had, burning the ships. I get it.
But would you get a prenup?
I probably would. Yeah. Do I think it's for everybody? It's not for me to say. You know, it's for the people in the relationship to say. Yeah. But one final thing. I do want to talk about God.
Okay.
Okay? Because you have a very strong relationship with God. You guys, are you religious?
Yeah.
Have you always been religious?
Yeah.
Have you ever questioned your faith?
Oh, yeah.
It's to do, bro. You got to question your faith because that only builds up the faith and makes it stronger.
Right. Do you question your faith?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
so what does questioning it look like?
I mean, it's just the thoughts you have. Like
Doubts.
You got to ask yourself, is God real? Is like, did Jesus walk?
And what's your response to that?
From the evidence that I found, the things that I've looked at from my personal experiences, I think so.
So one thing I don't know if I could ever be 100% sold on religion. I don't want to bind myself to that, you know, I can never be 100% sold on it. Even if I wasn't 100% sold on religion, I could see it positively affecting my life and the people around me, which I know isn't the case. That's not the purpose of religion. To believe in something greater than yourself. And even if I die and nothing happens and it's just pure blackness, that I had faith and something pulling me towards the light, pulling me towards something that is like good. You know what I mean? During these 85 years or however long I have on the planet. So even if it's wrong, I still think it's a win-win.
But what do you lose from just trying it out?
Right.
What do you lose from reading through the Bible? I mean, there's even on a non-spiritual level, on like a completely physical, secular level, there's a lot of wisdom there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom for sure. And, you know, obviously like the Bible is very abstract. It's kind of like hard to pull that wisdom out of there sometimes.
You got to read Proverbs.
Yeah. Okay. I have a Bible. I could read it.
Yeah. Proverbs would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
For me personally, like no matter which way you look at it, and I could think of 3 ways, it always points back to God. You know, if you think about it from, you know, you being super analytical and going outside and thinking about creation, it's like, what makes sense? You know, if you're going to believe in the Big Bang Theory and whatnot, that's still a lot of faith to believe in that, you know? And for me, the God, the creator and the creation makes sense. If you think about it from a fear perspective, that also is one way. Like I do fear God, you know, he's almighty, all powerful, and there's some fear there. And also from the perspective of like wisdom and happiness, like when you look at people that are wise and the people that you want to be like, in the cases that I've seen, they're Christian, you know, because you see people that are successful financially, successful with like clout or, you know, success in sports, whatever it is. And I don't see anybody that's fully fulfilled without God. There's just always something missing.
One thing I've picked up on for most of my life is like the happiest people. So like I find a concentration of like my idols, barring a couple. But like I would say by and large, a lot of the times my idols have been religious. Like the people that I look to for not things like money related, not things like, you know, substance related, but like everything beyond that, You know what I mean? Like fulfillment, meaning, the things I feel like are really important, they've all been spiritual or religious. So I see a concentration there, but I also see a concentration of like some of the happiest people in my life that I've met. They are religious and they've been religious for most of their life. And they have this like weird air of like, just like positivity and confidence, and good faith, which I always like. I just notice the trend, the pattern in my life, you know, and I don't want to be ignorant of it. If I see that.
I mean, you don't want to just solely base your perspective of Christianity on like the Christians in your life, right? Because maybe you would have had the opposite reaction, right? What if you have a bunch of bad Christians in your life?
Right, true. But all I have, I mean, it was really like my own personal.
And that's good. I'm glad you have the experience.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like it can't be a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's like, very rarely do I see a Christian like that's just like, me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting what you said about you still have to have faith to believe in the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Because that is true. You're just kind of picking what you have faith in. Because you have to have faith to believe that the explosion happened and that everything fell into place so perfectly, that we have the perfect atmospheric pressure. Everything is so perfect that all that was an accident. I feel like it takes some faith to believe that. And that also doesn't answer the question of what was out here before, you know?
Right.
Where'd that energy come from? You can't create it, you know?
My best response to the faith in the Big Bang would be, I am placing my faith in my opinion, like hopefully the smartest people. Like I honestly, a lot of the times, I don't really speak for myself. I kind of just speak in quotes of other people that I've deferred my thought to. So it's like someone asked me for my relationship advice. I'm not giving them my advice. I'm giving them all of the advice that I've received from all of the smart people in my life and the people I see online and stuff like that. And I feel like the same thing goes for like belief or faith in the Big Bang. It's like, who believes that it was the Big Bang, right? How intelligent. I'm like saying like raw intelligence. I don't know. Like the science and stuff like that. I just place my faith in that. So rather than something that like, sure, it could be the Bible. I'm not just going to, break it down to a book, but like the Bible, I would be doing the exact same thing, placing my faith in like who wrote it. You know what I mean?
But you have to have faith either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was just like an interesting point.
Yeah.
That you have to have faith in one or the other.
And the biggest thing the biggest problem I have with the Big Bang is there had to have been something to start that, where like in order for there to be that explosion, or there was some sort of matter, or like there has to be something, right? Like there has to be a start to everything, besides if that everything was already like a being that's outside of time, that's outside of everything.
So after having on all of these experts on our podcast and extensive conversations with some of the smartest people that exist in the world, there is a recipe for success, a definitive recipe. And this is what it is.